steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite weekly sports podcast show. That's right. This is Sideline Banter. I'm your host, Cooper Pose. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Weston Murphy, and we are back after a week hiatus. I had to take a little break. I was coming back from a trip last week, so it was a little difficult to get an episode in. But we're back here tonight. Very excited to bring you guys some more content. We have some very exciting discussions tonight. Really, mainly just NBA Finals. Finally came to an end. Denver Nuggets with a dominating performance in the finals this year. Weston did call it exactly. He said it was going to go to 5. The NHL season wrapped up last night as well. The Golden Knights taking it again, also in a 4-1 fashion against the Florida team. Pretty impressive as well. Florida taking a lot of L's.
Oh, Florida's down bad.
Down bad. We had some exciting UFC fights last week as well. Great card, another great card by Dana, and a little NFL talk going. And we're very excited to bring you guys another exciting episode of Sideline Banter. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, Weston. Denver Nuggets win 4-1 against the Miami Heat, NBA Finals, their very first NBA championship since the NBA league itself was formed. They won an ABA championship, but obviously doesn't count because it was not the NBA. But yeah, they go ahead and get their first NBA Finals championship, winning 4-1 against the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler just wasn't enough to get the job done. Bam definitely showed up a little bit in the series when he could, but the bench players, the role players for Miami, those undrafted players who were seemingly very hot the whole playoffs, just wasn't enough. The Cinderella story came to an end in the finals. Congrats to them, though, for getting that far with that team. They had a pretty tough path to the finals, considering that they were the 8th seed. Can't take anything away from them at all, but phenomenal win for the Denver Nuggets. Jokic proving again that he just very might be the best player in the league right now. Definitely one of the top centers. Definitely the top center. People are starting to debate that he could be one of the top centers in league history already. But let's go ahead and get to you, Weston. You did, as you already said, predicted it exactly. 4-1 series final, ending it in 5. Spencer said in 6, and I was way off saying it was going to end in 7. Had a lot of faith in Miami. But yeah, Weston, what are your first impressions from this dominating Denver Nuggets finals series, and really honestly just a dominating performance overall in the playoffs? Had a couple bumps in the road, really just mainly the Phoenix series. But yeah, what are your thoughts of this Denver Nuggets championship team?
Yeah, I mean, I think from this standpoint, everybody's got to put a little respect on my name when it comes with the NBA talk, because, geez, I pretty much nailed it on the head. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I pretty much insinuated.
Sounds like you're tooting your horn a little bit.
Hey, maybe. To no fault of my own, but I have to at this point. I pretty much, started off by saying that Miami didn't have a chance, and that was evident in this series. I mean, even though they got that close win in Game 2, 111-108, they obviously stole one in Denver, which was impressive to say the least. But with that being said, it didn't really even spark to me at any point in this series that Miami really had a formidable shot of, actually taking the championship this year. It was just clear after Game 1 when we saw Bam really come out perform really, really well. And that was kind of our X factor talk that we had prior to the series starting, that Bam had to play out of his mind to be able to give Miami a shot. And that was kind of with the insinuation that Jimmy Buckets was actually going to show up for the entire series. And it kind of ended up being a little bit of a flip-flop. We had Jimmy Buckets playing like no man's land, no-show Jimmy for, a majority of this series, but most of quarters 1 through 3 in all these games, Jimmy Butler was nowhere to be found. Kind of made a little bit of an impression in most of the games late in the fourth quarter. He, decided to come alive for whatever reason, especially in that last game. It gave him a little bit of a shot when it came down to it. But Bam played really, really well. He averaged 21 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists, which was really unheard of for anybody to come and play against Jokic like that consistently. So I think Bam, who we were giving a lot of flack prior to this series, stepped up and played, like a high-end center is supposed to play for a team like this that needed you. But I think it directly goes back to what we were kind of saying is Miami's question mark was being able to provide offensive firepower, and they really did not have the consistency to be able to, go head-to-head with the Nuggets, who, like we kind of talked about before the series starting, were just so efficient and so deep offensively and defensively when it came to the matchup and how we looked at this series going. And it really played out just kind of how we, I think we all pretty much assumed it was going to go this way. Some of us had our hopes that it was going to be a little bit longer of a series or that the Heat were going to have more of a chance. But when we look down to it, I think you hit the nail on the head, Cooper. Jokic is the best player in the world right now, undeniably.
He doesn't give a shit at all that he won an NBA Finals.
Exactly. That's the part I was going to roll into. How does that look for the NBA having, a player like Jokic who has shown time and time again that he really treats playing at the highest level of athletic competition and being one of the best players in his profession, in his career, almost as a 9-to-5, like any other, normal American would, refer to their job as. He pretty much views basketball in the same light. It really shows that he doesn't play for the love of the game or the passion necessarily, but he plays strictly to get his bag, take care of his family, be able to, go back to Serbia and race and ride horses, which is his true passion, and, play League of Legends and Clash Royale in the locker room. That's kind of who Jokic is, which is kind of an insane, way to look at it, because we've always, especially in the United States, always seen our basketball heroes, LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan being these guys that are just so hyper dedicated to the game, play strictly for the, what they say is the love of the game, the sport that they, grew up on, or, were able to become the person that they were because of basketball. And it's just really, a different side of things to see. It's kind of refreshing in some light to see an athlete really show that his sport plays second fiddle to his life, and that he's here to, obviously dominate the sport when his number or name is called. But at the end of the day, it's just his job, and that there's more to his life than playing basketball.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a kid just so excited to go to summer break.
Yeah,
just
right.
fucking waiting for it to end.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that plays into that is that he is very homegrown in terms of where in Serbia. He if you saw the post-game interview, which kind of hard not to see, he actually was visibly upset when he found out that they had to do a team parade on Thursday.
Yeah.
He has a horse race, I think he said, on Sunday, so he's trying to get home before then. Which makes sense, obviously.
What if it went to 7, dude? He wasn't going to make that anyways.
Well, yeah, he wasn't going to make it anyway, but still, regardless, now that it's over, he probably is like, oh, okay, I can make it.
He just flies back to Serbia for Sunday and then comes back for Game 7 on Monday.
I think in terms of how it affects the NBA, like you said, I don't think it affects them negatively. I think it's kind of...
It's just a hilarious look.
It's a hilarious look, and I think to me, it's almost kind of refreshing because I feel like I'm not going to say that these players who make it very obvious that they are dedicated to the game and work hard, all those traits. I'm not going to say that it's corny and cringy, but sometimes it can be a little much. I feel like when you see these guys try to put on this persona, like we've talked about it a couple times off camera, Jason Tatum specifically, how he tries to make it so obvious that he's like this massive Kobe Bryant fan,
Yeah,
and he
the
does
second coming of
he
Kobe.
does everything through
Self-proclaimed.
Kobe, and he does everything the same as Kobe. Like sometimes I feel like that can be a little corny, and it is nice to see something a little different. Because I think Jokic, honestly, straight up, I think he's just somebody who works really hard.
Straight up.
He perfects his game to the best of his ability, and he just goes out there and he plays ball, and he does what he's supposed to do, and he plays a game, and then he goes to the next game, plays the next game, and he clearly takes it one game at a time, which I think is probably his best trait, the fact that he just really goes out there and plays basketball and night in and night out puts up the best performances that we've seen in the playoffs ever. This was definitely this was the greatest playoff performance
It's almost
for a
effort.
player through a whole entire playoff season that you could say, and it's
Playoff stretch.
and I honestly enjoyed it. I think it was great that he pretty much acted like he didn't care at all. Like it was honestly really cool to see.
I wonder if he'd be a different player though, if, like, because he does it all effortlessly. Like if you see him really want that, show that tenacity, if he'd be a different beast, or if it's just this is his play style, like this is what fits him best.
I feel like to what you're saying, I feel like he does play at his best, and he
still has a lot of visible passion for the game when he's playing.
100%. There was multiple times this playoffs.
I think he just carries himself differently.
Yeah, there were multiple
I
times.
just like the way he fucking wobbles around the court.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny.
There were multiple times this playoffs where he was clearly upset with either his teammates, how they're playing, or falls on the floor. In this game specifically, he was upset at one point when the team was struggling to break away from Miami. I think it's just his demeanor. I think, like I said, I think he just goes out there and he knows he has one job, and that's to go out there and play basketball. Like you said, he treats this pretty much like every other person's 9 to 5. Like this is his 9 to 5 to him. Like basketball is definitely everything for him. I think we can say, obviously, because it's how he makes his money. It's what he does for a living. But I don't think basketball decides how he lives his life. Like even during the post game, immediately after they won, when they were interviewing him on the court before the actual trophy presentation, they were asking how he felt to win the finals, and he was even just like, "No, we're done. We did it. Like it's finally over."
He said we can go home.
Yeah, he said we can go home. It is kind of funny because it seems like he really just doesn't care, but I think deep down he obviously cares. I think for himself, he knows how good of a player he actually is. So I think it's more of like he expected this from himself at some point. I think this Denver team expected this at some point as well, seeing how Malone coaches the team, talks about the team. Obviously, with Murray coming back, they didn't have him for the last 2 years. I think that definitely helped to take them over that edge finally to get to this point, because we can talk about Jokic, of course, obviously, as much as we want, but Murray also had a fantastic playoff stretch as well. He played phenomenal, cemented himself, I think, as one of the top point guards in the league, no doubt, in my opinion. And it's really cool to see. It's really awesome to see. I think it's something different for the NBA to see, kind of put a perspective into a lot more players' eyes. And what I think is actually funny, I saw a tweet. Somebody said that Jokic is going to take that Finals MVP trophy and put it on top of his refrigerator and just forget about it basically the rest of his life. Like that's how seemingly, or that's how careless he was really about winning this whole thing. And it was cool. Honestly, I really liked it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the part that I think is, it's different, so it's kind of funny to watch, is just the fact that, like, no matter how down or up he is, he's the same player. He's same level-headed, like, as far as expectations and, his perception on the game. It's just like, even when they interviewed him after, he pretty much, they told him like, "Oh, you're one of 4 players ever to have a 25, 14 and 4 stat line." And he literally chuckled at it and was like, "Oh, really?" Like pretty much paying no mind to it, because he didn't even think that was an honorable stat line. Like he literally replied and saying, "Oh, really? Like that's not even that good, but whatever." Like I just think it's hilarious, just because he's a true testament of, if you want something bad enough, no matter your motivation, that you can go ahead and get it. Like he's, getting paid $40 million or upwards. He has a Supermax deal, and he's providing for his family and obviously cares about what he's doing immensely. But on the converse, he, I don't know, is not so intrinsically, I don't even know necessarily how to describe it.
Hard to describe him. It's hard to describe like what kind of like.
But yeah, basketball is just a facet of his life. It's not his whole life, and he's not overtaken by, the things going on. He doesn't pay too much mind about, what happened or when. And that was even, reflected by his response to the loss in Game 2. He pretty much says sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And that being a response in the finals really just shows the confidence in himself and his team, and, the way that the Nuggets have built that franchise. And the part that I really, really like about this is that it's going to really make these teams, these dumbass teams that have really built themselves upon free agent trades, splash signings, bringing in these star players, and it's going to make them reevaluate, because the Denver Nuggets did this internally. They drafted Jamal Murray. They drafted, Jokic. They drafted these players, this Christian Brown kid, these players that are cornerstone players in their franchise.
Michael Porter Jr. finally.
Porter Jr.
being the
also,
player that people were expecting him to be.
Also was drafted. And then they bring in key role players like Aaron Gordon, like, KCP, like Bruce Brown, to be able to, fill those voids. And it really shows an alternative way of building your team and getting to a championship and being successful at the top. And honestly, it makes the direct way that I look about the success from the Nuggets is how the Suns really fucked up by getting rid of Bridges and by getting rid of
Cam Johnson.
They had the blueprint to be able to continue building around those young players and bringing in a couple pieces, core component pieces, to be able to bring them over the hump. And I think that making that move from Kevin Durant, it ultimately is going to prove to be the wrong move in the next couple of years, because frankly, I don't think the Suns have a chance to be able to, compete with this Nuggets team who has Jamal Murray under contract for 2 more years, has Jokic on a Supermax deal, has Aaron Gordon for 2 more years. This team looks like they're going to be able to do some things from now, from a while from now. And knowing that their owner, yes, he is a little cheap, but he also owns the Rams, who have won a championship in the last couple of years. He owns the Colorado Avalanche, who have also won a championship in the past couple of years. So he has the revenue to be able to, put more money into this Denver Nuggets team, pay these guys that need to be paid, and continue the success of this team in the West. And I don't think they're going to slow down anytime soon, because I don't really see any team being able to stop Jokic down the stretch in the playoffs if he continues to play the way that he has with Murray. And it really shows as well, like the way these teams are being built now. We see, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are 2 off-the-ball players that don't coincide really within offensive sets in the half court. They are the polar opposite from what we saw interaction-wise between, Murray and Jokic running the pick and roll over and over and being able to kill teams with this pick and roll, pick and pop, and, opening up shots for their playmakers on the outside, whether it be Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon. I just think that this Nuggets championship really shows the blueprint of how teams are going to be able to play in the playoffs. I think these flashy signings, these big name stars, they look cool and they're awesome for the regular season, and they might get you to the playoffs. But like we saw with the Suns, who got ultimately trounced by the Denver Nuggets, even though they may have been their toughest tasks, I think we can agree the Suns didn't really look like they were going to be promising at any point in that series necessarily either. It was, I don't know, this playoff run to me was a Denver Nuggets muscle flex, and it really shows that they're going to be here to stay and that they have a good blueprint for what a championship team can be if you put the right pieces around drafted talent.
Yeah, and what I like about this championship run and win as well is, speaking on you saying the blueprint, my favorite aspect, quality about this team is that they did it in the way that you almost can say old-fashioned NBA was looking before. They had
not relying on the 3 half-court sets,
and they have a
good defense.
They had a superstar big man and a superstar guard of some sort. Kind of same thing we saw with Shaq and Kobe.
Pick and roll, pick and roll,
yeah,
pick
and roll. We've seen it many times in the NBA succeed, and
very reminiscent.
The last couple years, I feel like we hadn't really seen that really come back to light with the NBA, considering the last couple of champions.
You could say it with the Bucks.
Kind of with the Bucks.
The Bucks kind of show a little bit of that with.
But I mean, who was their star guard on that Bucks team?
Chris Middleton.
I mean, he's a big small forward.
Are we saying
they kind of operated under similar pretenses? I know what you're trying to say, but to Cooper's point, it wasn't
like this finals was. Yes, the role players 100% played their part. Gordon, KCP.
Specifically, you're speaking on point guard.
Specifically, this playoff run was the play of Murray and Jokic. The
guy
whole time.
taking the ball up and interacting with the center every possession. That's pretty much what you get from that team.
And like I said, I'm not discrediting the role players by any means, because Denver's role players definitely showed up this whole entire. KCP probably played the best stretch of basketball we've seen him play
in his career.
Same with Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
Same with Aaron Gordon.
What
no
did
doubt.
I say? He gave Jimmy buckets absolute problems.
They all showed up.
It was so funny watching him just constantly just stuffing the ball in everyone's face.
He is a fucking problem on defense.
But this finals run, this team ran through Jokic and Murray, and it was really fun to see, really nice to see. But like I was saying, we hadn't really seen it in a while. We saw Golden State for a while with their powerful 3-point shooting, and I hate calling Golden State a super team because they drafted all those players minus the years they won with Kevin Durant. We saw LeBron dominate with. We saw LeBron and Kyrie for a little bit, but to me,
this takes it back old school.
Yeah,
for sure.
It takes it back old school for sure. Jokic just had the most impressive playoff run of all time. First NBA player to record 600 points, 250 rebounds, and 150 assists in a single postseason. He
averaged 30, 14, and 7
in the finals. It's impressive, and hats off to Denver. I'd love to see it. Love to see it. It's really refreshing as well because obviously Golden State won last year, and it was kind of like, all right, Golden State won again. But the past couple years, the NBA is becoming really interesting again because we're finally seeing the balance of the NBA return to normal. We've seen Toronto in the last couple years. They kind of had a super team. We saw Giannis and the Bucks, Warriors. Now we're seeing Denver, and now it's almost seeming like, I don't want to say Denver is probably the favorite to repeat, at least in my opinion. But even right now, you could look at the NBA next year and say, like, anybody could still take it. Because I know you said you don't think the Suns are going to win, but you could still look at that Suns team and say they got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. There's talks of them getting other players to run the point guard, maybe Chris Paul.
Nobody can stop Jokic on that team.
No, I agree
in a
with you.
7-game series, no way.
It seems like it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of players in the NBA right now that could stop Jokic.
But they don't even have a big man to even compete with him.
No, I agree, and that's definitely something.
Is a nobody.
That's something
to
Phoenix is gonna have to address that. But yeah, like I said, hats off to Denver. Really, it was, even though it was a 4-1 series, it was still a very entertaining series. Miami kept it interesting. Them winning Game 2, I think, was a huge surprise. Excuse me. Sorry, not a surprise. Was very uplifting because it made it seem like it was gonna be an interesting series. But then Denver pretty much.
I was actually surprised that Miami didn't fight back as much. I mean, they really looked at the end of Game 4 or Game 5. They just fucking gave up.
Well, they
don't have enough firepower.
I was gonna say,
I know, but I mean, it's a finals. How are you just gonna give up like that?
Caleb Martin completely disappeared in this series.
We said he had to play out of his mind.
Strus, I think, which
is a testament to Michael Porter's defense. He played really good defense too.
I think it was after Game 3, he was 1 for 17 on 3-point shooting. Or I think it was him and Martin both after Game 3 were both 1 for 17 3-point shooting. Couldn't buy a bucket that whole series. Hero being out, I'm not going to say is the reason they lost, obviously, but Tyler Hero not playing.
It hurts, but he should have been playing. I mean, they said likely Game 3, right? He never showed up at all.
They said he was potentially going to play Game 3, and then he suited up for Game 5, but I don't think he played a minute.
What's the point of putting him in the lineup, though, if you don't know what he can do? Like, you create, you ruin any chemistry.
It doesn't really help.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's do or
chances.
die. You got to try something, but. Yeah, hats off again to Miami for getting to that point. They had a tough road to the finals.
My question is, where does Miami go from here?
They need
talks about Dame Lillard going to South Beach.
They need they need a number one option. Jimmy, as good as Jimmy Butler is, he's still not a number one
volume shooter. He's
not a number one scoring option. Bam's not a number one scoring option. They need a solid number one.
They got Dame, they would look like a different team.
They need a solid number one guy.
That's been a huge problem with a lot of Eastern teams. I mean, everyone has their star players, but they seem to be so inconsistent. With Giannis getting a first-round exit, Joel Embiid and James Harden can't advance past the second round.
James Harden's gone now.
Yeah. Here's what I want to ask: is that Bucks Finals championship looking more and more like a fluke? You think?
No,
maybe not a fluke.
I don't think so.
I mean, is Giannis at the time when Giannis won that finals? People were talking about him, and that's what I hate about NBA.
I think we're more likely to see Giannis versus Jokic next year.
I agree.
What I hate about
depending
the NBA,
on what the Bucks do in off season,
and I've noticed it more this year because this was the first time that I really followed the NBA for the whole season. Was very interactive on social media, all that, everything about that. The NBA Twitter is so just weirdly toxic, and the NBA fan base
so
is just
wishy-washy.
Weird. It's so wishy-washy. It is it's the weirdest group of fans.
They're honestly so fucking annoying because
you have to weed out the casuals as well. There's a lot of casuals.
But then there's also those fuckers who are like, oh, you must not know basketball. Don't even fucking talk to me, little bro. It's like, bro, that shit's so annoying.
Yeah, it's actually, you want to know what's so funny to me? It's if anybody ever argues about the 2020 Lakers championship, pull up Pat McAfee episode for today's date. Malone literally said
Blown, dude.
KCP, now 2-time NBA champion. So an NBA coach is considering that championship ring legit because KCP won in 2020.
I feel like there's no reason anyone.
No, but I'm saying like people still
yeah,
try
fucking annoying.
People still try to say that ring doesn't count. Like that's what I was thinking about. Like, and I hate to admit it, but you could kind of see that KCP was a lot more amazed with this finals because he won obviously in front of a crowd, and that Denver crowd was lit.
Well, I think it's more satisfying based off of his performance. I mean, he played amazing.
He was a pretty solid player though for that Lakers team.
He did
in 2020,
okay, but there was a lot of times where he was missing open shots. And,
yeah,
his
he wasn't
game is
expected to score.
He made a couple big time plays in that game.
Yeah, his game has improved so much.
Defensively, he's a good asset.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think his defense is super.
Around an offensive juggernaut in the half court like Murray and Jokic are able to, create. You don't need KCP to score. You need him to play defense. You need Aaron Gordon to play defense, and you have 3 scorers.
Yeah.
They did the right thing in the way they built that team.
Yeah, and I want to say back to the Bucks, how you're saying like was that championship a fluke? I think this year we saw that first round against Miami. Miami at that point was playing lights out. I mean, they were on fire and they were playing that way through every game up until halfway through that Celtics series, and that's at that point they completely shut down. And I think with the Bucks, I think they just had a tough opponent, and I mean, there's no excuse for it, but I don't think going forward it's gonna hinder their ability to get deep into the playoffs.
The Bucks, again,
huh?
If they beat them 4-1 again, Miami.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe it's not a fluke.
I get it.
Maybe fluke was a bad word choice, but after Giannis won that finals against Phoenix, people were talking about him like he's like the next greatest and like the next Kareem, all these things. People were lifting him up.
I mean, they're talking about him. They were talking about him the same way we're talking about Jokic. It's kind of natural to do after any finals.
Playoff performance, though, he literally just had the greatest playoff performance of all time. I feel like
Giannis had an insane playoff run too the year they won the championship.
Yeah,
yeah, but not to this level. Not to this level by any means.
It was pretty damn close.
No way. I can't imagine it was. I mean, maybe, but Jokic and Giannis's play styles are so completely different. I feel like you can talk about Jokic in this manner because of he is a center and the way that he plays the game.
I mean, their builds are completely different. Giannis is
but
they're not the same player.
Their games are completely different as well.
For sure, yeah.
Jokic could run the point, I feel like, if he really wanted to.
I don't know about that. His ball handling is not that great.
His ball handling is pretty solid for how big he is.
No doubt. But I don't think he could run the point. I don't think. I don't think that's him though.
But yeah, no. Congrats again to Denver. A phenomenal playoff run. Love to see it.
Kind of a boring finals, but
I thought it was still pretty entertaining. But
Miami never really had a shot, which is kind of disappointing. But
yeah, well, now we got to look forward to next NBA season, which will be here in November. And
I'm excited for the offseason. I mean, there's a lot going on. I know everyone has a lot of talk about Victor Wembanyama going to the Spurs, and they're going to be dominant again. I don't know if you guys have seen any videos of him playing, and
he's insane.
Well, some of those videos, though, he gets shut down pretty easily. Like, everyone's saying he's going to go into the league. He's going to be dominant.
I don't think
he's
going to
be one of those generational players that we see just out of the gate just super fucking good. What?
I don't think we'll see him play that much.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I think he'll play a lot, but I don't think the Spurs are just going to go, like, straight out of the gate and be contenders.
Like, he's not unless he, like, impresses, like, a ton. I don't think he's going to be night one.
They got to get through the Suns to get into the playoffs, so we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But no, that's just a talk. That's how people are treating Wembanyama. But I mean, him going there is going to change up kind of their franchise because they haven't really been too relevant in a while.
They're going
so I'm excited to see where that goes. But just moves all around the league, like just to see how different. I mean, every offseason these teams change so much. So I'm excited to see all the different changes throughout the league.
Like the Clippers,
I mean, Dame has got to go somewhere. He's got to get out of Portland.
Go somewhere. Yeah, he's got to get out of Portland.
Lakers have to figure out their situation,
Kyrie's
whether we're going to get a point guard
Harden.
or what. Yeah, there's
a lot of movement.
A lot of movement going on.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting offseason, and it's going to be right in the middle of NBA or of NFL training camp. So
yeah, and I'd like to see one of the New York teams make a move too. I mean, they both had really good seasons, but they just need a little bit more there. So I want to see them kind of figure out something.
The Knicks, you could almost say, are one more.
They're close.
They're one more
close.
player away
from competing in Boston Boston in the East. Yeah,
and then you got Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell. If he was obviously upset with their performance in that series. So Yeah, I wonder if
I kind of thought
what we'll
Cleveland was kind
there.
of Cleveland was kind of my dark horse this year in the playoffs to make a real run.
Ever since Shaq said that Donovan Mitchell is not going to do shit and like him take that so seriously, I've been wanting to just see him take that into his hands and fucking take over. But I mean, he really just doesn't have much around him in Cleveland. He's got Darius Garland, but they perform so poorly. So I don't know. I want to see some change there. I want to see Donovan Mitchell do well. But I'm excited to see what goes on in the offseason.
Yeah, it should be good anticipatory for the next season because I think a lot of things will, change, and a lot of teams I think are going to be comprised of different components and kind of maybe a different outlook on how to build your team for the long haul based off of this finals, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very exciting finals, as we said, and we can't wait for the NBA offseason. Going to be very exciting. We can wait for it, but because now we're in the dry time of sports. But we also had another exciting sporting event over the weekend. Like I mentioned, we had UFC 289, Nunes versus Aldana. Amanda Nunes wins in dominating fashion, 50-44, 50-44, 50-43, in a unanimous decision to retain her title and, as well, retire at the top of the game. Congrats to Nunes on an incredible career. It is sad to see her go. She finishes her her professional career with a 23-5 record, double champ. Pretty much did everything that you could do as a champion. So I don't blame her for riding off into the sunset.
I just wish she would have done it in a different arena. I felt like it was weird to do it in Canada.
Yeah, maybe like in Brazil. But
I get what she said. Like there was some significance with like Anderson Silva and the relation with being both from Brazil. I just don't know if that was the right place to do it. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I get what you're saying.
Obviously, she had her and her partner are like getting ready to have another kid, and you can't put it off too long. But I feel like off of a different kind of victory, like a dominant submission or knockout, be so exciting. But I mean, it was still a great win and a great career. But I just wish it would have been somewhere else.
The fight stats are pretty
dude, she destroyed her.
Dude, insane. Like 196 significant strikes from Nunes to Aldana's 57. Or sorry, total strikes 196 to Aldana's 57. Significant strikes 142 to 41. Yeah, like Aldana only threw
142 significant strikes out of 157 strikes in total. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no,
that's ridiculous.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Aldana only threw 7 body shots, landed 3 of them. Nunes had 49 and landed 28 of them. Like it was definitely it was a dominating victory for Nunes, and I feel like the last couple fights we've seen have all been dominant except for the very first Pena fight, which is interesting because Pena has been talking a lot of shit online ever since Nunes retired. But I mean,
the women's Colby Covington.
She was due a rematch, which I understand why she was upset, but.
I mean, I swear it's because of the the UFC is pushing on that WWE fucking dramatic.
Yeah,
probably.
It has been interesting. Even like
but
O'Malley
has been cringe like that.
Even O'Malley, who was it when Sterling beat Triple C? O'Malley got in the ring and got in his face and everything.
That was staged.
It is. I think it's just a way to make it a little more exciting for people as well.
Get more casuals involved.
The person we want to mainly talk about, again, congrats to Amanda Nunes. Not really much to say about her fight. Very dominant, but yes, the person we really would like to highlight for this, Charles Bronx Oliveira, gets a very, very dominating round 1 win, 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the fight. Gets a TKO on, I'm going to butcher his name.
Beneil Dariush.
Beneil Dariush,
right.
Who was on a 8-win fight streak.
8-fight win streak.
8-fight win streak. Jeez. 8-fight win streak. Was actually the favorite in this fight, which is very disrespectful.
They were talking about that man like he was the fucking GOAT before the fight.
They were. Even like the pre-fight video, they were kind of hyping him up a lot.
Disrespectful, bro.
Charles Oliveira, again, just proves that he is one of the best fighters in UFC history.
This was the best Charles we've seen.
This was definitely the best form of Charles we've seen, obviously, since losing his title to Islam. But what's next? Obviously, it has to be a rematch, right?
Oh, yeah.
Has to be.
I would assume right now, as far as what I saw a conversation between Islam and Daniel Cormier, and he was talking about the winner of this BMF fight, Gaethje versus Poirier, getting the next title shot against Islam. And Islam literally trolled the fuck out of the BMF belt. He said, "What is that bullshit belt?" He said, if I'm fighting for that belt, I don't even care to bring it. I don't want it because it's nothing. It's a belt that they give He literally said it's a belt that they give the guys that will never have a chance at winning the championship or at winning the title. He literally trashed. He said, who had it before? Masvidal versus Nate Diaz? Yeah, 2 guys that will never even sniff a championship. He literally was trolling the BMF belt and said straight up, Poirier and Gaethje have no chance against me. So I don't know. That really, even if, depending on what Dana does, because I think the winner of that fight will end up having another title shot before Charles gets it. But Islam really is not even paying any mind to those guys. I think he knows the next threat is Charles coming back for vengeance. And I don't know. I'd love to see it because what we saw out of Charles, he got performance of the night and he was there to play, he was not there to play. Like the way that they were talking about Beneil's striking and grappling being something that can neutralize Charles, and he was able to get out to a very fast and hot start. He looked good striking. He, fought a majority of that first round on his back and was able to neutralize a lot of heavy strikes that were raining down on him from Dariush. Like, it was just a masterful performance. And even with that, spot on his back, the jiu-jitsu position where he was taking most of those strikes, I never really felt that worried at any point that, Charles was not in this to win. And he ended up getting the fight back to his feet at his beck and call, was able to get, Dariush back into a striking match when he wanted, and then instantly landed the right hook, followed it by a left, and took Dariush down, folded him like a sack of potatoes, and it was over like that. And that was just the type of Charles that I think we were used to seeing as a fighter who has 30 wins in the UFC. He is a guy that's not meant to be fucked around with, and I think that it was just disrespectful that we gave so much credit to Dariush as the 4th contender at that point, and he was not able to perform at all. And I don't know. I kind of saw it coming from the way that Dariush was carrying himself in these fucking embedded videos. The motherfucker was caring about being a father more than he was the biggest fight of his entire life that he had coming up. So the way I look at it, Dariush, you asked for that shit and you got beat by a better fighter who was focused and ready to go and put his life on the line for the, getting back to the title. Charles left his daughter in Brazil and was able to get to the money. And that's kind of what we would have liked to have seen from Dariush, who brought his family and his 2 kids and was ultimately distracted, I think, by the time Fight Night ran around. But I don't know, dominant win from Charles. And as we move forward, I think we're going to have an interesting way that the lightweight division kind of sets up.
Very interesting here in the next couple months. And
I'm excited. We definitely have a really good Fight Night next week. We have Cannonier versus Martin Vettori, which is going to be really, really good. But yeah, we'll just look and see what happens in the lightweight division. But UFC 289, I think we can mark that off as a win. Canada really came out and performed.
Yeah, 4 fights for the Canadians, and they won all 4 fights.
All of them. We should have ran the Canadian parlay. Dude, had to know that it was a money move.
And a Canadian won the RBC Canadian Championship.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did just so really? big week for Canada.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Shout out Canada.
Yeah, I agree with you. He was very disrespected, the Bronx, in this fight. The lightweight division is going to be very interesting to keep your eye on in the next coming months, just because that Gaethje and Poirier fight, I feel like it's so hard not to give Charles the immediate rematch, in my opinion, because he is the champion, or he was the champion. Definitely had an entertaining and interesting championship run.
But you also want to give Islam another test after.
I agree.
Debatably losing to Volk.
The fight to make it, yes. After debatably losing to Volk, but Volk.
We need to see him fight another guy.
Volk is one of the, you could say, is again one of the best fighters
100%,
in UFC
but
history.
He went down a division to fight him.
Yes,
so
100%. I agree
Volk
with
went
you.
up. So
no, I agree. In terms of Islam was definitely at an advantage in that fight. I think the fight to make is obviously the Oliveira versus Islam rematch. I think it really just depends on how the Gaethje-Poirier fight goes down.
Facts.
And honestly, it's kind of, I feel like you can't even really say that, because if either one of them wins in dominating fashion like Oliveira did, then I feel like UFC's in a good spot, because they can look at both of those fights and be like, all right, Oliveira won in dominating fashion and Poirier or Gaethje won in dominating fashion. Either one of these two could be an interesting fight for Islam. Obviously, I would like to see Gaethje win that fight and Gaethje go up and get one more title shot, because he did mention that
he needs one more run.
He's taking one more run at this thing, and then he's going to hang up the gloves. So it would be interesting, and I think Gaethje would be a different animal when it comes to getting the second title shot. obviously him going up against Khabib at that point in time, everybody going up against Khabib was a massive question mark.
You weren't gonna beat him.
And he put up a good performance against Khabib, but I don't see it going any differently against Islam. Like, yeah, we know he can strike, but if Islam doesn't get caught, he's going to throw Gaethje on the mat, and if he's not prepared, like, he'll get dragged for three to 4 rounds.
And that's what I think would be different in this fight. I feel like if Gaethje almost takes something from the Volk fight. Volk made Islam stand up and trade with him as much as he could in that fight, a majority of the fight.
But Volk was also coming up a weight division, so I think Islam felt more comfortable standing with him for the majority, you know?
Well, and Gaethje could learn from his mistakes from the first Khabib fight.
Because even Islam took Charles to the ground a lot.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want to even stand with Charles, and Charles is not that decorated of a striker.
No. But I think, personally, I feel like Justin would learn from that first Khabib fight, knowing that their styles of fighting are very similar, if not somewhat the same. And
True.
I think would come out in a different form, different fashion.
Maybe a little bit better prepared.
He would be definitely better prepared, I think, for this fight. It would be, obviously, like I said, I'd love to see Gaethje. Poirier has revived his career over the last couple years. I think he's going to be in this game for a little bit longer, where Gaethje, like we already mentioned, has already pretty much said that he's coming near the end of his career. So I think Poirier, regardless, even if he loses against Gaethje, he'll get another shot at some point, because lightweight division at this point, I feel like, is controlled by 4 or 5 guys right now that are just going to stay at the top until a new fighter comes.
I hope Gaethje beats Poirier, and then Poirier... So I hope Gaethje beats Poirier, and then Gaethje gets the next shot against, whether that be Charles to figure out who fights Islam for the title, or he goes straight to Islam. And then Conor beats Michael Chandler and calls out Poirier after losing.
Yeah, but do you think they would do a third fight?
Yes. That's what Conor wants.
Yeah, I think Conor definitely wants that.
To be fair, I think that last fight with Conor was kind of not fair, that he
broke his leg.
Broke his shit, yeah.
Yeah, so
he couldn't perform. I understand it's a loss, but I really wouldn't chop it up to him actually being defeated.
Exactly.
No, I agree. Well, I think it's a contest.
That's what the UFC wants to happen, I feel like.
Well, I mean, people are I've seen some chatter that just based off the Ultimate Fighter alone, Chandler seems like he definitely has a good chance of beating McGregor.
We'll see. He's a better coach. That don't mean he's a better fighter.
He is a better coach for sure. McGregor.
I would say at this point.
We got episode 3 tonight.
I would say at this point, Chandler's a better fighter than McGregor.
Right now?
Yeah, I would.
All right, buddy.
Dude, Chandler's looking nice.
Chandler has literally been a knockout fiend the last couple fights, because he just gets posted up and gets way too crazy.
I feel like
it was just so exciting, though.
He's an entertainment devil. He gives a fucking show, but he's not there to win necessarily.
That's why I think the Gaethje and Chandler fight was so entertaining, because they're both very similar. They're both out there to they're one-punch knockout guys. Like, they're looking for that knockout.
And that fight was, everybody knew what that was going to be, and that wasn't necessarily a fight that was going to propel anybody to the title.
Yeah.
It was an entertainment.
It was.
It was for entertainment, and they knew that. So that fight,
it was a great fight. I mean, it was a great fight.
Yeah, and I think the person that won should have won, but at the end of the day, that wasn't a representation of someone that's going to go compete for a title. That's someone that's going to put on an amazing show and throw haymakers until the lights go out.
Well, and what I was to Spencer's point, I think McGregor isn't the same fighter that he obviously was in his prime. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, watching their second fight, Poirier and McGregor, McGregor didn't look like he was even like in the same level to be in that ring with Poirier.
There were some
I don't
moments.
know. I feel like he's just been so different of a fighter. Like he doesn't train as hard. I mean, he has gotten much bigger. I don't know where he is at right now.
Outside of the UFC
and we didn't really get to see much of him in that third fight, but I don't know. I just feel like, based off of how long it's been since we've seen that dominant McGregor, I don't think he's at that same level anymore.
Hey, it doesn't matter, bro. Watch the doc. It's McGregor forever. He's out to get it.
McGregor forever.
He's out to get it, bro. He's
you do as you're told.
He has a lion spirit, and the fact that he's even coming back at this point when he has all the money and all the status and everything, he's coming back for the will of the fight, and he's coming back to, I think, get what his and show the people that he's.
I'd love to see it. I mean, I know Conor's just so fucking controversial. Like here and there, he's always doing some fucking crazy shit. But I kind of like it. I kind of like to see that drama. I hate on the WWE shit with the UFC, but I love what Conor brings, and I think he's
that shit naturally.
Dude, he's so funny, and I like his fighting style. but I don't know. I would love to see him get back to where he was or even better.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
UFC's in a good spot, though. We got a lot of good shit on the horizon.
UFC is in a great spot.
We have a lot of good stuff that's in the works. So
Bo Nickel.
Yeah, Bo Nickel's on the next card.
He is on the next card. He's the first fight, too, I think.
Yeah, and he's going against
Next
someone that
card
should be a fucking walk. He's playing or fighting Tayshaun, bro. He's a striker, so I'm calling another first round win for Nickel.
Yeah, like you said, we have exciting, we have very exciting, honestly, fight nights cards coming up. Next UFC card is 290, Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. That's going to be a really exciting card. Got, as you said, Vettori versus Cannonier.
Do we know who Leon's going to fight?
No.
No, because I think Dana said that it was going to be Covington, and I think Leon, like, I don't want to say made a big deal out of it, but he made a big deal out of it, saying, like, he doesn't think Covington deserves to be his next challenger.
So that's up in there.
I agree with that. Fuck Covington.
I agree with that as well, but I mean, you can't. It's hard that the UFC is in a weird state, I will admit. In certain divisions as well. Some divisions are very heavily dominant, and some aren't. I think the lightweight division, in my opinion, is probably in the best state, just based off the fact that it is really 4 or 5 guys right now. I mean, Charles was just the champion for Islam, and Islam has defended his title 1 time. And we're already sitting here saying, after Charles gets a dominating win, we're already saying, I mean, is it going to be Charles? Is he the next challenger for Islam? Like, we don't know, because we still have a whole other fight that has to happen to determine, okay, like, is Charles really the best performance to put up against? Well, will Charles versus Islam be the best performance that we can put out there in front of people for this event? So it's the lightweight division is definitely in its best, is in the best state, I think, for the UFC right now. And yeah, I'm excited, man. UFC's been very exciting.
I mean, all the divisions are so exciting. Yeah, it is in a good state.
I'm just ready to see John Jones fight again. I mean, when is he going to fight
I'm excited
again?
for the Moreno fight.
The Moreno fight's going to be nice.
I'm a huge Brandon Moreno.
Yeah, the Mexico card's going to be bussin'.
Is that the 290?
No.
It's not?
I don't think so.
Oh, it is. It is. 290s Volk versus Rodriguez. Brandon Moreno.
Oh, yeah.
Versus Pantoja?
Yeah, Pantoja.
And then Robert Whitaker and...
But they have beef because they fought on Ultimate Fighter when they were
Dan
on in the
Hooker's
same
on this
season.
card too.
Dude, I'm excited for it.
Pantoja beat him
Hooker's
in
making a
Ultimate
comeback
Fighter.
to not be in prelims anymore, or what? Good for him.
That's an easy knockout.
I think this is also Robbie Lawler. He's the main prelim fight, but this is his. I believe this is his last fight as well. I'm pretty sure I saw something that said Lawler will be doing his last fight. So it'll be definitely an entertaining card. I'm excited for it. UFC's been good, man. Ever since COVID, Dana's definitely making sure that every UFC event is, and they've all been stellar. I can't remember the last UFC card that was actually like disappointing.
John Jones is a little disappointing.
Yeah, but I mean, just because he went out there and won and dominating, I think it was
cool, but I
think it was disappointing because there was so much hype.
It was disappointing on the entertainment factor.
Yeah, there was so much hype behind him coming back, and he went out there and he dominated like in John Jones
so
fashion.
Much more from Cyril, yeah.
So I think we'll get a different fight when it comes to Stipe versus John Jones. I don't think Stipe will go out there and lay an egg like Cyril Gane did, but
and then we'll see Jones retire, dude. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, kind of wild that he's already saying he's going to retire.
Yeah, after what 6 more fights that he's supposed to have.
He technically didn't sign a new deal. He just agreed to finish out his contract, which was he had 5 more fights left. And we even talked about it. I remember when we initially mentioned that it was kind of hard to envision him doing 5 more fights.
Yeah,
because he's another one like
he's been in the league for a league, but he's been there for so long.
And he's another one who really doesn't have anything really left to prove anymore. He moved up a division and won the title easily, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with John Jones. We got a lot of good UFC stuff coming up soon. It's gonna be UFC's gonna be what keeps us going during this time period. It's just tough to
see all these.
And y'all guys will get the llama soon. He'll be back.
Yeah, we wanted to have the llama on last week, but of course, like I said, and some travel difficulties. I was traveling through New York while that fire was going on, so day coming home for the pod was a little interesting. But yeah, phenomenal UFC performance by Nunes, Charles, all the Canadians. It was a great card, but. Yeah, I mean,
getting into the minuscule NFL
news.
We got
NFL talk, we got a little bit.
D-Hop to the Patriots? ? They got rid of James Robinson, freed up some cap.
Which is crazy to me. What's going on with him, man? I feel so bad for him.
He's a Jacksonville Jaguars player, so it's always iffy to see if he's going to stick or work out at another organization. But it was interesting because the Patriots signed him to a 2-year deal and cut him like nothing.
Immediately.
They freed up $1.5 million in cap space.
Signed him back in March.
And then now
June.
They're refusing to give Lawrence Larry Guy, ASU 7th rounder, who's been a stud defensive tackle, pivotal franchise kind of piece for that Patriots team for so long. And he's sitting out right now because they're not willing to pay him what he feels like he's deserved. And I think that's kind of a loss that they're going to be willing to take if they can go ahead and get old D-Hop, who's making a visit to New England.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be hard to let D-Hop walk out the door, especially considering that their best weapon right now on that roster is, receiver-wise, is Juju Smith-Schuster, who I'm a fan of. I like Juju, but he's not a number one option. And Mac Jones, I think, is at a point now where you can give him a little bit of slack considering their offensive coordinator issues last year, having a defensive coach and a special teams coach share play calling duties. So I don't want to say Jones is already kind of in a prove it.
He's in a better spot,
mindset.
though, with Bill O'Brien's back, baby.
Bill O'Brien is back, and I don't want to say he's like prove it or lose it type situation, but he definitely is in a prove it type year. And I mean, what better way to help your quarterback succeed?
He's got to improve under Bill O'Brien.
He has to improve for sure. And you already know I'm not the biggest Mac Jones fan. I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's good, but I want to see every player succeed. And what better way to help your quarterback succeed? Sign one of the best receivers in the National Football League.
You can throw the ball out 15 times a game, and Bill will find a way to get him open, Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick. And yeah, it's interesting. D-Hop takes, a visit to Tennessee last week, which would be a horrible landing spot for you to go.
Receivers go to die.
Exactly. And then you go take a visit to New England, obviously. And it kind of shows that D-Hop's in it for the money, baby. He's not looking to win a championship like we thought. He's looking to get his bag and go.
And we haven't heard much about Buffalo or Kansas City.
Yeah, that kind of died off awfully quickly, and that was
Cleveland died off really quickly too.
And that was our estimation that he was going to go to one of those three teams right off the bat, and it ended up being visits to the Titans and visit to the Patriots, which are really big question marks offensively, and just shows that D-Hop's not really looking to go win a Super Bowl or a championship maybe right now, and he's looking to maybe get another bag and go play, comfortably where the expectations aren't too high and not be that, number one guy for the playoffs type of situation. And
I mean, if he went to New England, he would definitely be the number one guy.
100%, sure. But he's not necessarily going to be the number one guy going into the playoffs in a loaded AFC where the Patriots are going to be questionable to even make it in one of the hardest divisions.
While we're talking about the AFC East specifically, it looked like Buffalo for a little bit was having a little drama with Diggs, but now Diggs and Josh Allen seem to be doing fine. Which Diggs is such a prima donna, man.
Whoa.
Such a prima donna. I'm sorry. Connor, my brother, actually. He has, dude. He did the same thing in Minnesota. He became a drama queen, and then they ended up trading him to Buffalo. And Connor, my brother, for those of you who listen, is a Vikings fan. I told him we weren't doing sweeping this week, but he still sent in a question. He wanted to ask, why is Stephon Diggs such a bitch-ass bitch? And, Connor, I don't know what to tell you, man.
I love Diggs.
I love him as a player, but, it was just weird for him to – there was a little bit of drama with him the last couple days, him posting that weird cryptic Instagram story. And then Josh Allen even yesterday. Josh Allen – He posted some little caption on his Instagram story basically saying believe what you want to believe, say what you want to say,
which could be in reference to the situation. It could have been something completely different as to why he wasn't there.
And then your quarterback comes out to the media and he openly admitted that some of the drama going on was something between Diggs and Allen. So that to me kind of irritates me a little bit. I think just based off of what I had to go through as a Steelers fan with the whole Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger thing where Diggs did not do anything near what AB did, but AB publicly bashing Ben and Ben getting in front of the media and having to basically nut up and say, hey, there's some drama going on. Is it me? Could it be me? Yeah, there's some differences going on. Josh Allen having to do that to me, I feel like this early in the offseason too, especially, I feel like that's just you don't do that to your quarterback. And then all of a sudden today there's videos coming out of them celebrating on the field together. It's almost like Diggs wanted, and I'm not saying this by any means this is what happened, but it almost kind of seems like Diggs wanted Allen basically say like, oh, like Diggs isn't being a prima donna. Like there is, there's some drama going on between us. We're trying to work it out. And then all of a sudden he's back on the practice field today celebrating with Allen. It is kind of a weird situation in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I definitely think it's interesting the way to look at it. But at the end of the day, Diggs is there and he's on the field. And as far as what he's showing to the media, him and Allen are in a good spot. So it is what it is. I definitely agree with you. It's not a good look to start the season, but ultimately he's there right now and he's going to be there. So as long as he's going to play, it really doesn't make any difference at this point in the season. He's a star player that may not want to be, there for mandatory, mini camp, which is understandable. And he was also on the question mark block as far as even coming back to Buffalo after the last scene before the Bills lost that playoff game. He was, yelling at Josh Allen on the sideline, and that could be, the likelihood that Allen and Diggs hadn't talked to that point is very, very low. But either way, I just think that from the outside looking in, like as a fan, whatever's going in internally in that organization, we don't really know. We're at this point trying to make a story of something that could probably not even be there at all. Like Diggs could be having problems, with his family or, whatever's going on around him. And it could have nothing to do with football and speaks to that cryptic post he pushed on social media. So I don't know. I try not to read too much into that stuff. Either way, the Bills are in a good spot and they have him back on the field. So I think that we may be reading into it too much, but yeah,
and that's what we do. Hey, we're sports guys.
That's what we need.
We read into it. Just like I'm going to say, I think Jamar Chase made a big mistake today. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Joe Burrow yesterday was asked who he thinks the best quarterback in the league is. He said Pat. And then today, Jamar Chase was being interviewed, and a reporter said, "How do you feel about, or who do you think the best quarterback is?" And he said Joe Burrow. And the reporter said, "Well, Burrow said that Pat is the best quarterback in the league." And Jamar Chase replied, "Pat who?" So I get it. He's obviously Burrow's his guy. It's his guy. It's his quarterback.
I like that.
But to me, it's kind of like, okay, come on, like. Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
That's a rivalry now, baby.
Oh, it is 100% a rivalry. To me, it's like, I totally get it. Like, no, and that's the video seems almost forced. The video of him answering almost seems kind of forced. And that's what I'm saying. I get it. Like, I kind of like it too, because it's kind of like, the Bengals.
You're setting the tone for the season.
You are setting the tone, but it is kind of like, all right, bro, come on. Like,
I like it.
And I'm not, and I do this a lot, but I'm not comparing Mahomes to Brady's legacy yet. I mean, Mahomes is on his way, minus the Super Bowls, but like that's almost like if somebody from like a rival of the Patriots was like Tom who, in my opinion at least, it's like, come on, bro. Like Pat is clearly night and day the best quarterback in the league. Like, and I see both sides. I also see where he's like, that's his guy. He's gonna obviously be like, Joe Burrow's my guy. Who's Pat? Like. Who's this Pat guy you're talking about? It's interesting. It definitely I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the NFL to come back. All these
coming in full force.
All these press conferences and the media's back in the locker room, and we got clips of guys making plays in practice. Justin Herbert said today that he's not ruling out missing practices if he doesn't get a contract extension soon. Like there's a lot of talk coming back about the NFL, and it's going to be fun the next couple weeks.
Apparently, unnamed player lost $8 million betting this year on the NFL.
$8 million.
So that'll be interesting to see which dumbass was doing that.
That's insane. Don't
take gambling advice from them. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, and they were talking about that today on Pat, how the NFL is kind of like, they don't specify, like you can't bet in the building, but if you're outside the building, like you can put a bet in on other sports. It's like, why not just make it like completely illegal to bet in general on sports? Like if you're a pro athlete, like,
that's a lot of money for FanDuel. A lot of people with disposable incomes and bad decision making.
FanDuel got $8 million from one NFL player.
Exactly. I couldn't imagine.
And in my opinion, if you're an NFL player losing $8 million, at least in my opinion, it's probably somebody who's good.
I can't imagine how much these NBA players are losing.
Because if you're an NFL player and you're losing $8 million, I can't imagine somebody who's an average NFL player is making $8 million.
Zion's paying a full contract to Mariah Mills on the offseason. I could only imagine what these other players are betting.
I don't know how true this is, but I saw something today on Twitter that said Zion Williamson apparently put his own package together to potentially get traded to Houston.
Oh, wow.
Which would be so bad. Him in Houston.
I saw something that literally did the math for how much Mariah Mills was getting paid by Zion monthly and then comparatively with her flights and like hotel stay, she was making comparable salary to what Jose Alvarado and Herb Jones were making.
That's ridiculous.
As bench players
I mean,
on the
has a lot of endorsements
Pelicans,
too.
they were making damn near as much.
Damn, she's a 6-man?
Yeah, she's the 6-man, bro.
Hey, Zion's a starry athlete, so he's definitely getting that starry money.
Yeah, he needs to fucking
insane.
starry play ASAP, or he's going to be
does.
starry out the fucking league.
He does. But yeah, no, a lot of exciting stuff's going to be coming up here soon. NFL is getting ready to ramp back up.
Mostly bullshit drama until sports actually start again.
Mostly bullshit drama. I mean, mandatory mini camp's about to end, so hopefully, we'll be getting more news like this Justin Herbert, which just happened 2 hours ago. Jamar Chase thing happened today. I mean, yeah, we're getting a lot of stuff. We're getting a lot of stuff finally starting to come back.
D-Hop finally lands.
2 months out, yeah? From football?
A month and a half until training camp starts in August.
We got like 90-some
First
days,
week of
80-some
August.
days.
Can't wait. Do we know where Hard Knocks is going to land?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
It's between Jets, Chicago.
And Jets have already come out and say they do not want it.
Yeah, but they don't have a choice.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be the Jets.
Me too. I think the NFL wants it to be the
They
Jets.
got the Hall of Fame game too, so it'll be like something for them to cover as well. It's the Jets, Chicago, and I don't because it's only 2 teams or it's only 4
Dolphins.
teams. It's only 4 teams. No, I think it's your one of the credentials to being on it is you have to have not made the playoffs in like the last like 2-3 years or like haven't been on the show in like the last like 2-3 years. Yeah, it's the Jets, Bears, and I don't remember honestly. Yeah, it's Hard Knocks will be exciting. I'm ready for that. And
What about Commanders? I could see Commanders being on there.
Huh?
Commanders?
It is Commanders. I got it right here. I just pulled it up. It's Chicago, Saints, Commanders, and Jets. It's gonna definitely be the Jets. Nobody cares about the Commanders.
Nope.
Unless the sale of the team gets approved before, then I could see it.
I could see Saints.
Saints maybe because you got Derek Carr.
It's a boring ass season if I've ever heard one. Maybe no Michael Thomas. You got Derek Carr's boring ass. Dennis Allen.
In my
is
opinion,
not
the 2 most exciting teams. In my opinion, the 2 best teams are Chicago and the Jets.
What about
100%.
Kamara?
Because even the Jets.
What's happening with him?
Who knows? He could be suspended for the whole year. I don't know.
Who?
Kamara.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what's happening with him. But even if they don't do the Jets and they do Chicago, like Chicago's still got a kind of exciting team. They're a team that's kind of in that middle ground of, are they gonna be good? Are they gonna be bad? Like we don't really know what's going on really with Chicago. It all depends on Fields, obviously, and seeing Fields' development through live training camp would be really cool to see.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be a good time, and we're really excited here at Sideline Banter, and
we're gonna keep out pumping episodes, even despite the fact that we don't have sports going on right now.
Well, when does that quarterback show come out?
Oh yeah, the Netflix quarterback show. They released a trailer for it today. I don't remember seeing when it's going to come out. I would imagine probably soon during the season, I would hope. Kind of exciting really exciting that it's going to be covering Mahomes during a Super Bowl season as well. For those of you who didn't see it, Netflix is coming out with a show called Quarterback. It's going to cover the whole entire last season of Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. 3 perfect grounds, I think, to cover superstar quarterback, best quarterback in the league, a solid QB in the league, and kind of now once star player, now journeyman quarterback who's trying to keep his way in the league. It's going to be definitely very exciting. I'm ready for it.
Oh, I'm hyped. It's going to be fire for me.
Some Mahomes footage. Wonder if Jackson's going to be in it at all. Probably not. They probably cut his footage from it.
Mahomes' fucking annoying wife is in it. That's for sure.
Yeah, she's definitely in it. She was in the trailer. But definitely go watch the trailer if you guys haven't seen it yet. It looks really good. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching another episode of Sideline Banter. We are very excited to be back. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Don't forget to follow us at _Sideline Banter on Instagram and Twitter. Find us on YouTube at Sideline Banter. New episodes every Thursday at 8 a.m. Find us on YouTube, Apple Pod, Spotify, Amazon, and anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Weston, if you don't have anything else you'd like to add to tonight's incredible show.
Hey, message everybody, go play your pickleball. We're going to go get some games in right here.
Go get some games in.
And follow Sideline Banter. We'll be back next week, baby.
We'll be back next week. Thank you, guys. My name is Cooper Pose, your host. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Weston Murphy. Behind the camera, we got Spencer Steinke. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sideline Banter.